Hello FPL managers, yes, we're back with another video for the Fantasy Premier League 2021-22 season. On this video, we're going to be looking at the preseason friendlies. We're going to run through most of them and see exactly how our teams are setting up, how our players are doing, the players who are featuring for their teams, the ones who are on form, the ones who are eligible to play, those who are at the Olympics, and those who are not eligible because of injuries or who have been moved out. You know how preseason goes. These matches give us a better idea of how teams are going to set up for their game week 1. And if you're new to the channel, we drop content once every week, and we intend to do that until the season begins. So click that subscribe button and stick with us for the ride. Let's get into it. So for starters, we're going to be looking at Arsenal. They've had a few preseason games. They started off with playing Hibernian, and they lost 2-1. And then they played Rangers and drew 2-2. And then they had games against Millwall and Watford, which they won 4-1 on both occasions. So they seem to be scoring quite a lot of goals. Their attacking players seem to be on form. Another thing we noticed was Callum Chambers. He's playing in that right back position. He scored a goal and created an assist in that Millwall game. So he's looking quite good, but he was moved to the centre back role for the Watford game. So in my opinion, if he is looking like he's going to be nailed on, he's someone who you guys might want to consider. Currently, he's about £4.5 million. So in this type of team who's going to be facing a promoted team, you may be thinking about getting someone who's quite attacking in defense. But the thing is, they're going to be facing Chelsea and Manchester City in game week 2 and 3, so that might dissuade you from doing that. But they still have a couple of preseason games coming up against Chelsea and then against Spurs. Another thing we noticed is that they're having quite a lot of troubles with set pieces. They conceded about 3 set piece goals so far, and if you're one who's considering getting in players who can capitalize, if you were thinking about getting Ivan Toney, then it might be a good idea to start him against an Arsenal, because they're looking like they're struggling with set pieces currently, and by game week 1, who knows, you may be able to do something with that. So that's for Arsenal. Up next we have Aston Villa. They played Walsall and won 4-0, and then they lost to Stoke City in their next preseason game, 2-0. They had a game against Nottingham Forest yesterday, but it was cancelled. I don't know why, but they still have a couple of preseason games coming up against Bristol City and Sevilla. So Watkins and Buendia seem to be developing great chemistry. They scored 2 goals and 2 assists amongst themselves against Walsall. Grealish hasn't featured for any games so far. These players who featured for the Euros, they might be coming back pretty soon and might feature for the coming preseason games. If he stays at Villa, then we may be investing a lot in that Aston Villa attack for the first 3 games of the season. If he leaves, then we might be seeing a new player coming in. I'm hearing rumors of Villa bidding for Leon Bailey of Bayer Leverkusen. So that's it for Aston Villa. I'm hoping that we can extrapolate more information from the preseason games that are coming up. For Brentford, they've played Wimbledon. They beat them 1-0. Boreham Wood, they beat them 2-0, and they drew against Manchester United yesterday, 2-2. Ivan Toney seems to be on form. He scored 1 goal and made an assist against Manchester United. That's quite good. And Mbeumo, he scored a goal yesterday as well. He came in from the bench, and that's quite impressive. Brentford set up in a 3-5-2 formation with Canos and Ivan Toney in front, and Mbeumo came in even after both players had left and scored a goal. So he might be looking like a good player, especially with the fact that he may be on some set pieces, so that might make him look quite attractive. They have West Ham coming up next, so if we want to have Brentford players, we might want to keep an eye on that game, because they may set up exactly how they intend to set up for the game week 1 against Arsenal. So you might want to keep an eye on that. Speaking about Manchester United, they played Derby County in their first preseason game and they won 2-1. And then they lost to Queen's Park Rangers 4-2, and then drew yesterday to Brentford 2 goals apiece. Greenwood seems to be playing centre forward. Don't know if that's how Solskjaer intends to play him or during the regular season, or it's just a function of players not being back from the Euros, from their holidays. Lingard picked up where he left off. He scored a goal. I think he opened the scoring against Queen's Park Rangers. And the next preseason fixtures could be more informative because they're closer to this when the season begins, against Preston and against Everton. So we expect more players to be back by then, so that will give us a better idea of how their first 11 are going to set up for the game against Leeds in game week 1. Okay, up next is West Ham, and they've been pretty busy. They've had about 5 preseason games so far. Played against Dundee, they drew 2 apiece. Played against Northampton, they won 2-1. Drew against Leyton Orient, 3-0. Win against Reading, and they beat Celtic 6-2, which was a very interesting game. Antonio scored a brace, and Bowen as well seems to be on form. He also scored a couple of goals so far, and those are the 2 players that I'm looking at. I'm not sure I'm going to be bringing in the Bowen just yet, but definitely Antonio goes straight into my team. And another interesting thing was the penalty Antonio won. It was Noble who took it, and I was thinking since Rice wasn't playing that game, Antonio should be taking PKs, but it seems he's just not on the list for penalties. So that rules Antonio out as a set piece taker for this season. Well, for now at least. So they've been quite busy. They've got Brentford coming up next and Atalanta. So before the season begins, they still have 2 preseason games to go. So we want to keep an eye on those as well. A few more players are going to be coming back. Kufal, also Rice as well. So that will give us a better idea of how those players, if they are fit and if they are ready for the season. That's going to show on these couple of games coming up. Up next is Tottenham Hotspur. They played Leyton Orient. They drew 1-1 in that game. Beat Colchester 3-0. And yesterday they played MK Dons and won 3-1. Son seems to be doing pretty well. He started as the lone striker, centre forward for Spurs, and they keep setting up as a 4-2-3-1. So that rules out the idea that they may play 3 at the back. Nuno seems to be going for that 4 at the back, and hoping that he can do better with that formation that he did last season with Wolves. So Dele Alli is another player who's doing well in pre-season. He scored a goal yesterday, and at 6.5 million, he's looking quite attractive. If he's gonna start games for Tottenham Hotspur, then he may be looking like a very good easy way into that Spurs attack, because Son and Kane might be quite really expensive for those of us who are going to be investing in other premium assets like Mahrez or someone like Jadon Sancho. You might want to think about getting Dele Alli if you can't get in a Tottenham attacking assets like Kane or Son. Okay, so these are the preseason games they've played, and they have a couple more coming up against Chelsea and Arsenal, so you might want to keep an eye on those. These group of teams haven't played a lot of preseason games. We have Brighton, who drew 0-0 with Rangers. They played 3 at the back, and if they're going to be selling Ben White, then Duffy is going to look like a very attractive asset. He's coming in at 4.0 million, and a lot of FPL managers are going to have him if he's going to be starting games for Brighton. And Burnley seem to be keeping a lot of clean sheets, but I noticed that Ashley Barnes has been on the bench. I would have thought that with Chris Wood not being able to feature because he's at the Olympics, then Ashley Barnes should be playing, but he seems to be on the bench. Maybe he's being protected. But they won both of their preseason games against Oldham and Blackpool. 2-0 against Oldham and 1-0 against Blackpool. Manchester City won their preseason game against Preston. They won 2-0. Mahrez opened the scoreline. You guys might want to think about getting Mahrez in because he plays Norwich in game week 2 after the Spurs game in game week 1. So he's another asset that might be on form. Chelsea scored 2 goals against Bournemouth, but the 2 goal scorers aren't anyone we'll be interested in. So that game was quite not informative for us. Liverpool played Mainz, but they're going to be playing I think Hertha Berlin later on today. So they played Mainz and beat them 1-0. Salah, Mane featured for that game. Jota was on the bench and he didn't come in at all. So I'm hoping that he's going to play the Hertha Berlin game. Southampton drew 1-1 with Fulham and then beat Cardiff 4-0. Che Adams came in on the second half and scored a brace, so that's good. At 7.0 million, he'll be saving you 0.5 in case you weren't able to get a Watkins or an Antonio or Wilson. Leicester seem to be sticking to a 3 at the back. They've played Burton 0-0. I think that game ended in penalties, although I don't know what the point of all that was. They lost to Wycombe yesterday 1-0. They started the game with Vardy and Daka in attack, which might indicate how Brendan Rodgers will be planning to play these players this season. Iheanacho on the bench. He might not be one who would be starting in game week 1, but let's see how the other preseason games go for Leicester City before we draw conclusions. Leeds drew 1-1 with Blackburn yesterday. They played Guiseley the day before, I think, and won, but those players seem to be academy players, so we wouldn't consider that. They played a 3-3-3-1 formation against Blackburn. Like we said with Junior Firpo, he seems to be playing in the middle of the pack. He played just ahead of the defense, and in our video where we suggested 5 players who might be the new Dallas for the season, we suggested that Junior Firpo might be just one of those players, and he seems to be playing in basically around the same position as Dallas was. So don't be surprised if Bielsa sets his team up to push Firpo closer and closer to goal as the season goes on. So as for Wolves, they played Real Betis in their preseason game and they beat them 1-0. Jimenez seems to be back, and this Wolves is another team who seem to be sticking to a 3 at the back at the moment, and Aït-Nouri seems to have nailed on a place in the team. We're not so sure. We'll see how the other preseason games go, but if he has, then I see a lot of managers going for him, because an attack-minded left wing back or right wing back on FPL is a very, very valuable asset to have. Watford drew to West Brom before their loss to Arsenal. They drew to West Brom 0-0 and lost to Arsenal 4-1. So they don't seem to be scoring a lot of goals, and which has always been the problem with getting Watford players this season. They don't seem to be a very attack-minded team, so they might just be more defensive. Assets you might be thinking about getting are the defenders. Norwich were supposed to have a preseason game against Coventry yesterday, but it was cancelled. But they had a game against Huddersfield, and they beat them 2-0 with Pukki scoring a goal. So for those who are interested in Pukki, he may just be starting the party early. So keep an eye on the Norwich games. Newcastle drew with Rotherham 1-1. Crystal Palace drew with Charlton 2-2. They've played a couple of other preseason games against Ipswich, where they won 1-0. With Zaha on the score sheet, and Walsall also is another game they won 1-0. Zaha also with the goal there. So Zaha might be on form. He didn't play the Charlton game, I don't think, and so that might explain why he didn't score. But Vieira seems to be playing a lot more attack-minded than Roy Hodgson will manage to do for Palace. So they are setting up in a 4-3-3 formation, so you might see a lot of more goals from Crystal Palace, and Zaha might become even more important on FPL. So keep an eye on those. We have Everton, who played a 1-0-0 game against Pumas. They won that game. Moise Kean seems to be back to Everton, but Richarlison is still at the Olympics. He's on fire, though. He's been scoring a lot of goals at the Olympics. So when he does come back, he might be one that we would need to jump on. Hopefully Willock comes back to Newcastle, and if he does, at 6.0 million, he might be an attractive asset to have. Wilson scored a goal in preseason. I don't think it was the Tottenham game. I think the game before that. So he may be another asset. Is a 7.5 million that you guys might want to have. But currently, it seems Watkins and Antonio is looking like the forward line to go for. I'm seeing a lot of drafts that might have Ivan Toney alongside them, or probably Dominic Calvert-Lewin, but most of them have Watkins and Antonio in their attack. So these are the preseason games that have happened. These are the ones that we could get some information on. There's still gonna be some games coming up before the season begins, so you guys might want to keep an eye on that. In fact, those couple of games before the season begins are going to be more important and more informative to the clubs and the way they're going to set up for the season than the ones that have happened already. So you guys might want to keep an eye on these preseason games. You know how important these ones are, especially for the beginning of the season. Those players who are on form, who have been scoring a lot of goals, who've been performing really well for their teams in preseason, they usually turn out to do well in the beginning of the season more often than not. Okay, so the preseason games are really quite important in themselves. Okay, so this is the video. We're going to be dropping another video before the season begins. Don't worry, it's going to be our final draft. We've made even more changes to the one we had last time, but I still need a couple of games to happen before I finalize that. So, and if you're new to the channel, please don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Turn on that notification bell so you don't miss any of our content. That's the end of the video. Have fun, and I'll catch you on the next one.